Good morning, everybody, and a very warm welcome to the sermon for the second Sunday of Christmas from Holy Trinity, Maisons-Laffitte. I hope that you all had a wonderful Christmas, whatever you were up to. Our Gospel reading for today comes from the second chapter of Luke, verses 15 to 21. We're still very much in the Christmassy readings as we hear about the shepherds arriving to see the baby Jesus. I was reading the lesson and I was thinking, do you remember the song, I Wish It Could Be Christmas Every Day? I think was it by Slade or Wizard or somebody? I can't remember. I'm not sure how you feel about that, wishing it could be Christmas every day. It's lovely to spend time with our family and our friends and to enjoy the special services and all the lights and the good food. But in reality, who wants that? Who wants Christmas every day? Remember, Mary and Joseph weren't allowed to stay permanently in Bethlehem. So perhaps we shouldn't either. Part of me gets to this time in the holidays, this kind of week between Christmas and New Year, and thinks, well, what's changed? Another year is over. I've probably gained a bit more weight, to be honest. My bank balance is lighter. But what else? What else has changed? We've all celebrated the birth of the Christ child, the Saviour of the world, the light that has come to dispel the darkness. Rejoice, rejoice. But then I watch the news. I turn on my computer. I watch YouTube and I still see plenty of darkness out there. I suppose over the weeks of Advent, we celebrated the prophecies of Isaiah, who told us that when the Messiah comes, the world will have light and love and peace and joy. The faithful will sing in delight, for Emmanuel, God with us, will be born. And he was born, and the world was forever changed. But what now? Where is all the love, the light, the peace and the joy when Christmas is over? The words of the prophets that we heard throughout Advent reminded us that the manger was just the beginning of God's plan. There is much, much more yet still to be done. The baby must become a man. He must teach us his ways, and then we must teach the world. Then in God's timing, the age of the Messiah will be announced and the kingdom will finally be complete. And where are we now in this story? As I said in the beginning, the world's story hasn't changed. So our story must. Think on this as a kind of a New Year's resolution. And I know this isn't easy. Oh my goodness, Charlotte, you're saying it's not easy. But I think a great example for us to look at is Mary. Mary in today's gospel, she is reflective. She's treasuring the things that people say to her and she's pondering them in her heart. The dictionary says that to ponder means to think about something carefully, especially before making a decision or reaching a conclusion. Another one says to ponder means to spend time thinking carefully, seriously about a problem or a difficult question. You know, and it strikes me as strange that in the middle of this wonderful image of peacefulness and calm, the baby has been born, Mary is pondering. You know, I sort of look at it and I think, well, maybe wouldn't she be relieved? Yes, she's going to be tired, But wouldn't she just be sort of lying back, chilling out, basking in the joy of her newborn baby? Instead, we're told she's pondering. And I imagine that part of what Mary is pondering is what has happened back in Nazareth. What has happened to her after the angel first told her that she was going to have a baby? The things said to her by the people in the town, the hurtful things said to her by those people. And most of all, of course, that look on Joseph's face when she told him that she was pregnant. And then maybe she was pondering the time when they found out about the census, the long trip they had to take, a journey of more than 100 miles through really difficult and dangerous situations, dangerous territories they walked through. And they did walk. They were a poor couple. Finally, on arrival, there's no space for them until someone took pity on them and allowed them to stay in a room which also housed animals. Did she ponder on that? We don't know how long Mary and Joseph were at this place, but at some point the baby was born. He was wrapped in a cloth and placed in one of the large stone feeding troughs. And then the shepherds arrived, like we heard today. They talked of angels, the baby. And the shepherds, they were so excited that they talked to everybody that they met. Word spread, crowds began to gather, people came to see the miracle baby, and at one point, much later, foreign men came, wealthy men carrying gifts for the baby. Mary watched as the men placed pieces of gold, frankincense, and myrrh next to her child. And these were gifts usually presented at the birth of a king. But they were also gifts that were typically used for embalming. Mary sees the wise men look at her deeply before they leave. Maybe she was pondering, are they offering her their blessings or their sympathy? Maybe she asked herself, why me? Why did God choose a poor, ordinary girl like me? He could have given the child a much easier start in life with some other mother. What did I do for God to single me out among all women? Maybe she wondered what the child would mean in her life. Does she anticipate the heartache that this son will give her? Does she imagine that one day Jesus will turn to her in front of a whole crowd of people and say, I have no mother? Does she suspect that the crowds will adore him and then turn on him in fury? Does she foresee the day when she will stand beneath a cross and watch him die in agony? I'm not at all trying to lessen the image of Mary, not at all. I am just wondering if Mary might have been different than the image that we often see of her in those paintings, all looking all serene. And I wonder, is she a bit more like you and me? If even then she might have wondered, she might have questioned, she might have pondered all these things that God was asking of her. I know I would have. Because if she did have questions or doubts, even the briefest ones, Mary was still able to find a way to do what needed to be done. In this week following Christmas and at the beginning of the new year, I wonder, have we had a chance to ponder, especially amongst all the busyness of the season, or maybe the busyness has overtaken us? I know that many of us have just finished reading through the Bible in a year. If you started it and didn't complete it, please don't feel guilt about that in your heart. And perhaps some of us are thinking, well, what does 2023 hold for me? How can I serve God in the new year? Maybe some of us are looking back on the year that has been and thanking God for his presence through a difficult time. It's always easier to look in the rear view mirror of our lives and to see God. The reason that Mary fascinates me is because at this point she was quietly, in her own way, doing both. She was looking backwards and then she was looking forwards, trusting God. And that realization on New Year's Eve, New Year's Day, well, that makes me ponder, to be honest. Because if Mary could do that, be simply a woman and have human questions and yet still find the strength to do what God was asking her to do, then she reminds me today that there is hope for me as well. And that for me, that's a message and an assurance for me to take in to the new year. Something for me to ponder on, but actually something for me to truly treasure in my heart. Happy New Year to you, my friends. God bless.